Talk of the Trollway spotlights Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's unique artists, entertainers, hobbyists, and personalities.
From a distance, the metal sculptures of John Pahlas may look like an owl, a horse, or a rabbit. But when you step closer, you might see a series of ring-shank nails, an old repurposed tool, or a length of rusted chain. The Mount Horeb artist builds his creations from other people's cast-offs. That piece of metal someone else tossed away might be just the piece he's been looking for to help complete a stalled project, or perhaps it'll be the inspiration for his next commission. I'm your host, Gary Schutz, and on this episode of Talk of the Trollway, John explains the benefits of growing up in an artistic family, the permanence of steel, and the satisfaction of transforming the industrial to the whimsical, as he builds everything from abstract forms to an abundance of animals.
I think it's probably 50-50. 50% of the time I just start off making whatever I see, emptying out a bucket and just starting to put things together. And it'll end up being a rabbit or a bird, maybe. It just seems to meld into animals for some reason. And I think that kind of goes back to the work my parents had started me at, kind of trying to, my dad always calls it playing God, trying to build something that, represents something from nature, a natural organic shape. A lot of art in general is manifested from the natural world. With the high production pieces, or easier to make pieces, I usually start off with a plasma cutter and a sheet of steel. It's a 4-foot by 4-foot sheet. I'll try to draw out about 50 silhouettes of birds, just the 2D silhouette. And then after that, I kind of just go one silhouette at a time, and I'll weld them to a structure a rotating base, just basically, a steel rod that has a swivel to it. And then I'll let it spin around, just kind of looking at the whole thing, and then start to build a structure with either nails or wire rods, things like that, just to give it shape. So whatever I do to this side of the silhouette, I'm going to do to this side. And then from there, I'll start looking into my buckets and my collection of stuff and find the feathers, find this or that. And that's kind of for actually knowing what I'm going to make. That's kind of the process. It starts with the silhouette, and then it goes into the armature wire structure, and then it's basically like stained glass from there, where you're just filling in those spaces, kind of like filling in a mosaic. It starts off kind of organized, and then it can get a little chaotic, but that's where all the textures come in too. That's when the texture really starts to play a hand in the composition, and that's something I'm just kind of like a texture junkie. I love different textures, and with steel, especially scraps, you have just a plethora, a galaxy of textures just waiting to be, manipulated into something. There's some spontaneous things that happen while you're making. You have the intentions of this, and it turns into that. Just with this one little spin of you look at it at a different angle, and suddenly it changes completely. I thrive on the spontaneousness of things too. So it's you have to be a little organized, but it's basically just trying to let the materials dictate what's going to happen. Not letting the subject matter dictate what the materials are going to do. Just letting the materials be and just making something out of them. That's something where I usually do that when I'm just sick of making birds and sick of making animals and playing God, so to speak. There's definitely some points where you just have to, or I just have to completely stop what I'm doing and not just put it away. Like there's a couple sculptures in here that have literally traveled with me to every location I've been at studio-wise, and I bring them with me because I feel like, this could be something someday. They're just sitting there like, when are you going to finish me? But I'm not. I think there's a lot of energy in certain points of the day or certain parts of the year where it's like I'm feeling it, like it's gonna happen. But then I just haven't felt it for some of those, and it just is sort of I keep them around just as a reminder that, you know, there are certain points in the creative process you just can't reach right now. You know, you just have to, I don't know what it is I need, but I need to not be doing that right now, you know. The finishing of a piece usually involves subtracting, you know, taking things away with a grinder. Kind of like, especially with like a figurative piece with a nose. A nose usually consists of a big blob of welding rod, just a very liquid form, and then I'll grind it down to give the contours of the nose, you know, for example. You could keep going and you could completely ruin a composition too, you know. And that's something my parents always taught me too, and my sister's a painter and my grandmother's a painter, and they always said, you know, one brush stroke too many, you know. You push that paint right off the canvas again. You don't have to like work it into the ground, you know. And you know, watching someone paint something so effortlessly and so quickly, and just being done with it, that's something to really. I usually take that into heavy consideration when finishing up a piece. The way I finish a piece is usually just grinding it all down, so I get a flat. Like kind of make the textures meld together and get a solid finish. And then I spray a rust patina on everything. And if that rust patina kind of washes over everything and kind of unifies all the pieces, then that's when I know if it's done or not. Coming along. It'll be rusty in no time. For me personally, when I look at something and I say that's done, there's a couple different factors in it. One of them being that I'm just exhausted and done with it. You know, other times it'll be that, you know, I just really, something hits and it feels right, and there's like a moment where it's like the light turns on. It's like, yeah, that's good, that's done. I grew up in Ripon, Wisconsin, and my parents, Ann and Kim Pahlas, they started a sign company, which then evolved into just Metalworks Incorporated, which was specialized in custom steel fabrication and ornamental furniture, custom deals like that. A lot of railing work, very functional, but extremely custom and intricate designs. And they kind of just raised me in that environment. And I chewed on a ball peen hammer when I was 2 years old in the shop and lost my 2 front teeth. I had to, you know, that was the starting point from there. So it kind of just, it was literally in my blood. My dad started me on copper and bronze. It's easier to bend and manipulate. It's not as ferrous as steel. So he started me off at brazing and doing certain methods with copper just to get me used to the heat and the methods and the discipline. And I started making little dragon heads, and then they kind of evolved into large-scale dragons with bodies and wings and stuff. At first, they just wanted me to be kind of out of their way while they were making their living. But as they started to see my interest starting to grow, and my time at the shop wasn't just being there because they were there, but it was actually like being there because I wanted to learn more. I started doing more production level things, like just remedial work. You know, the railings, you need to cut lengths and lengths and lengths of the same, do remedial things like that, and you have to punch holes in certain areas over and over again. So I was kind of like the work mule, if no one else wanted to do it, you know. And I did a lot of installation, helping with installing railings and things like that. There's a lot of patience that I learned too in that period from, you know, learning the methods at a young age and going on to high school and college. Learned basically just how to not get really angry at your work. You know, just try to keep it lighthearted and work through it. And I think that's 50 to 60% of the discipline of art. It's just learning to have patience, see things through from stem to stern, start to finish. I always was building things on the side for myself, turning all the scraps from their railing jobs into, I was into dragons for a long time, then I went into birds and just dinosaurs, things like that, just for fun, you know, for Christmas presents for family members. And as I started to kind of get better at it, I started to notice, even my parents were like, we need a bird for this railing, would you make the bird? So I was like, yeah, I could do that. And that's kind of where I stemmed off from there, into just seeing abilities that steel has, going from just a square rod of steel and then heating it up and forming it into a leaf or something like that. Just seeing the ability it has to be manipulated. And then the ability it has to the longevity that it holds. You make this thing out of steel that is it just doesn't break, it doesn't go away. I really enjoyed like learning that idea to the material. Always need a trap. That's still very stuck with me now. And it's kind of starting to make sense to why I use scrap steel in general, is because there's so much excessive material out there that's been just sitting in a field for years. And when you pick it up, it seems discarded and lifeless, but then you can, turn it into a rabbit or turn it into something with life. And that's something that really hit me at a young age, and is it's kind of turning into my conceptual ideas behind my work. Yeah, but it definitely takes a lot of time for that part of the art process to like, what am I doing? Making sense of why you do it. As I grow a little more mature every so often, I'm starting to understand that I really do want to evoke some sort of mindful statement. But at the same time, I also don't want to, like I said earlier, I don't really want to be a dictator of people's creative thoughts too. So there's a juggling act here. I want people to use their imaginations, and I want them to be free to think of these things as what they are or whatever they want them to be. But yeah, it would be, and I think that's just like that's the job of every artist, is to try and help society be more awake and be more, change for the better. Try to get our stuff together and start doing the right things instead of, just kind of catering to apathy. It's a challenge, but it's a challenge worth taking your life to try and help.
Yep. I think we're ready.
All right. Now I'm ready to wire brush the little birdie, and then we'll spray it down. Make it all rusty again. It's been a long time coming, but I've finally gotten to a point in my career where I can sit back and really take these thoughts that I started in college and put them to action. And that, as of late, has been this idea of, it tunes into that industry versus nature, and how we affect it, how that manipulates the concepts behind using scrap steel to begin with. And I want people to kind of get something out of the work that helps them start to think about these ecological issues and these, just to get the ball rolling on some of these major problems that we're causing. And that in itself, I feel is a huge challenge, and I can't stop thinking about it. But I also am having a hard time trying to get to the point where work is actually just saying that message. So that's kind of the future. I think that's what the future holds, and I want to start to make work that is going to have a social impact that doesn't breach the political realm, but it goes into a home or it's seen at a gallery, and people start to think like, man, I really should start recycling more, or I should really, start thinking about my footprint that I'm leaving behind for the future generations. And that's why steel is so neat, because future generations will see this stuff. It will be here still. People really are grabbed by steel structures because we drive in them every day. We cross them, over lakes. There's just a lot of it in our lives. Like our entire infrastructure is made of steel. So when people start to look and they see like all these bolts made into the feathers of a hawk or something, it's just kind of like, whoa, I didn't realize that you could do that with bolts. Or, I have buckets of this in my garage, and I never even thought that was possible. And that's when you've made something that's, for me personally, I know I've done my job when people look at my work and they are like, whoa, it just kind of gives them That's weird. I didn't know you could do that. You know? I didn't know nails could do that. At every art fair I go to, there's always a group of people who come in and they gather around the art and they see, and they have this look on their face like I can't even pick up a pencil right, you know, and they'll say like I don't have a creative muscle in my body, and it's a sad thing to think, you know. It's not true at all. People have been duped into thinking that about themselves. But I mean, how do you get up in the morning and get your shoes on, you know, after you put your pants on? You know, there's a creative process to everything, and I mean, it's just survival, really. It's you can't just. I suggest to people that they don't listen to their parents when they tell them that, you know, art isn't important, and just be a little bit rebellious, because especially in this state, we have a lot of people that just don't think art is important, you know, and people in high places that don't believe art should get funded, or art has true meaning, or is, you know, it's not worth it. But that's just so false. I mean, it's a part of, it's a huge part of human existence. I mean, we're the only animal on the planet that takes these materials and builds things. We were making paintings on walls before we could even speak to one another, you know. Like, there wasn't a written language, and we were still like taking chalk and stuff and making cave paintings, which is amazing, you know. So I would just suggest that people take time every day and just allow their creativity to come out and play, you know. Make mistakes and make silly doodles, you know. Why not? There's no harm in doing it. And you're not going to hurt yourself. You're going to just give yourself a moment to breathe, at least. I'm gathering the troll energy. You know, I'm not quite there yet. I do have one in the making that's roller skating, and it's like a kid troll. You know, so I was thinking, you know, it might be a good addition. Maybe some trolls that are growing up. You know, because there's a very family-oriented community. I think steel would be a good material to make just a really scary troll. It's going to be big, and it's going to be like slobbering. You know, it's going to have it may have a bad negative impact on the troll community here. I don't want this to be negative. Don't take this the wrong way, troll lovers. I really do like what I see. Like, these troll sculptures are neat, but a troll isn't necessarily, from what I've read, they're not very happy critters. Like, they eat people. You know, that's what they eat.
Coming up on Talk of the Trollway, it could be you or someone you know. Let us know who we haven't met yet. Email talktrollway@gmail.com. Talk of the Trollway runs daily on Trollway TV, Mount Horeb, Wisconsin's village cable station.